In downtown Minneapolis, there is a black building covered in more than 400 silver stars and exactly one gold one. It began as a bus station. It survived disco, bankruptcy, and a pandemic. And one August night in 1983, a song was performed inside it for the first time anywhere, with a verse the world would never hear again. Tonight's golden hour ride up First Avenue is the deep history of that building and of the district around it. We are in the heart of Minneapolis, Minnesota, riding First Avenue North. The route starts near the old theater district, passes Target Center and the nightclub called First Avenue, and runs on into the brick canyons of the warehouse district and the North Loop. Barely 3 kilometers, but 150 years deep. One block over runs Hennepin Avenue, which in the early 1900s was Theater Row, more than 30 stages bright with vaudeville, movie palaces, and orchestras. 3 grand survivors, the State, the Orpheum, and the Pantages, were rescued decades later, and their marquees still burn at night. Entertainment has been this neighborhood's business for a very long time. It started rough. These blocks grew out of Bridge Square, the city's front door, where day laborers stepped off the trains looking for harvest and timber work. The saloons here did more than pour whiskey. They held wages, forwarded mail, and matched men to jobs. By the 1880s, the papers already called the area Skid Row. The railroads changed everything. After the first line arrived in 1867, Minneapolis became the wholesale supply depot for the entire upper Midwest, and merchants raised fortress warehouses along the tracks, about 30 blocks and 159 buildings of them, many by the region's finest architects. The greatest, the Butler Brothers Warehouse of 1906, has brick walls up to 3 feet thick. Target Center has anchored this end of the avenue since 1990, home of the Timberwolves and the Lynx. The mural of young skaters beside it was painted in 2021 by local artist Reggie LaFleur, marking the years when the X Games made Minneapolis their summer home. And there it is, First Avenue at 701 First Avenue North. Every silver star on that black wall is an artist who owned its stage, more than 425 of them, first painted in 1984. The little corner room, the 7th Street entry, is a converted coat room that became one of America's legendary punk stages. Nirvana played the entry twice before the world knew their name. Watching over the block from the parking ramp is Crown Our Prince, 3 portraits more than 100 feet tall, painted in 23 days in 2022 by muralist Jairo Vega. The project took 7 years to arrange, and Prince himself approved the idea before his death. The city crowned him in paint where his story happened. Rewind to 1937. Greyhound, a bus empire born up north in Hibbing, Minnesota, opened a gleaming Art Deco depot on this corner with air conditioning, shower rooms, and a checkered terrazzo floor. For 30 years, this building was how you left town. In 1968, the buses pulled out for good, and the terminal sat waiting for its second life. On April 3, 1970, the waiting room reopened as a rock club called The Depot. Opening night was Joe Cocker's Mad Dogs and Englishmen Revue, 27 musicians strong, and the old bus station shook. The stage lights have barely gone dark since. In 1972, a Cincinnati chain turned the room into Uncle Sam's, a patriotic disco with a glowing dance floor. It could still surprise you. One November week in 1979, the Ramones and Pat Benatar played back-to-back nights between the disco sets. The name shrank to Sam's in 1980, and on New Year's Eve 1981, the room finally took the name of its own street, First Avenue. On March 9, 1981, while the sign still said Sam's, a 22-year-old Minneapolis kid named Prince sold out the room on his Dirty Mind tour. The story goes that Bob Dylan was in the crowd that night and asked to meet him, and Prince, exhausted, declined. 1 month later, an unknown Irish band called U2 played the same stage on their first American swing. Then came the night, August 3, 1983, a benefit for the Minnesota Dance Theater. Prince debuted his new band lineup, The Revolution, and closed with a brand new song no audience had ever heard, Purple Rain, including a verse he never performed again. That recording made right here is the one on the album and in the film. That winter, the cameras came. The club closed for about 25 days while the performance scenes of Purple Rain were filmed inside, on a purpose-built stage the club still uses today. The film came out in the summer of 1984, and Prince became the first artist in history to hold America's #1 film, #1 album, and #1 single all at once. The sound he built here spread. When Prince fired Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis from The Time in 1983, they stayed in Minneapolis and produced Janet Jackson's Control, and hit after hit followed from their Flight Time studios. Even Funky Town, the 1980 #1, was made in a South Minneapolis studio by a producer who was actually singing about wanting to leave town. How a star gets on the wall is a secret the club keeps. Some stars appear quietly. At least one was painted without the artist knowing, and one was removed. There is only a single gold one. When Prince died at Paisley Park on April 21, 2016, a local artist slipped downtown that same night, laid gold over his star before sunrise, and the club kept it that way. The building nearly went silent twice. In 2004, a bankruptcy shut the doors, and the club's own managers bought it back and reopened within weeks. In March 2020, the pandemic closed it with 2 hours' notice, and owner Dana Frank co-founded a national alliance of independent venues whose Save Our Stages campaign became a $16 billion lifeline for stages across America. The district came back with it. The 1974 rescue of the Butler Brothers warehouse showed these brick giants could live again, and one by one they filled with lofts, galleries, and restaurants. The old Skid Row blocks are now the North Loop, one of the most sought-after neighborhoods in the city. Here is the number that stays with me. Prince only played First Avenue 9 times. 9 nights, and this corner became one of music's sacred addresses. A bus station became a temple on a street that went from freight wagons to Purple Rain. Minneapolis hides its history in plain sight, and the best way to find it is to ride it. Subscribe and ride the next one with me.